I'm Sarah Coates. Thanks for joining me for this breaking news edition. A gunfight has just broken out in the West Bank between Ramallah and Nablus, between the Israeli Defence Forces and an unknown gunman. And for more on this story, let's bring in our defence correspondent, Daniel Semak, who is on the phone. Daniel, these are just initial images coming in and initial reports we are hearing, but tell us, what more do you know?
Yes, well, as you said, indeed a gun battle did break out in an area near Ramallah. What we understand is that a special security force operation was taking place, focused on one structure, one building in that village. The security forces, Israeli security forces, surrounded that building and then were met with gunfire. From what we understand, initial reports, again, not confirmed, that this gun battle was taking place between the believed to be perpetrator of the Ariel Junction stabbing and shooting incident from Sunday. Initial reports also suggest that they have neutralized that attacker, that he's been killed, but we still don't have official word as of yet, but the security forces are still operating in that area for now.
Okay, Daniel, there may be some people sitting at home who are unaware as to exactly what happened in this attack outside the Ariel settlement, so just give us a little bit of background there, please.
Well, it actually started out on the Ariel Junction, where there was a stabbing that took place. A soldier was stabbed and killed. His gun was stolen at the scene, and then that attacker actually managed to steal a vehicle and take it to another point very nearby, where he opened fire at other bystanders, killing a Israeli civilian and injuring as well another soldier. And after that, there's been an ongoing manhunt for the past 3 days. There have been arrests made until now. On Monday, there was the arrest of another accomplice, and just overnight, his brother was also arrested, a 16-year-old, and his father was also taken in for questioning. Israeli security forces also surveyed a store where his family is believed to be the owners of that store. So a very expansive, thorough security effort to try and sniff out where this perpetrator was hiding. It does sound as though they have managed to locate him and neutralize him. Okay,
and Daniel, this alleged attacker who allegedly carried out this attack outside the settlement of Ariel, we know that the Israeli Defence Forces has already mapped out his house for demolition. He has been on the run, as you said, for 3 days. So if it is, in fact, this person who we are hearing initial reports coming in that has been shot by the Israeli Defence Forces, tell us, what sort of response can we expect from the Palestinians, given that there really has been quite a large uptick of violence we've been seeing in these last couple of weeks here?
Well, that's definitely true, Sarah. There's been an uptick in violence, an uptick in tensions in the West Bank and also Jerusalem. And it's coming before a holiday, a Jewish holiday in Israel. During holidays, oftentimes Israel decides to close crossings from the West Bank as well as Gaza, pardoning any humanitarian concerns, seeing as oftentimes holidays are generally have in the past. There have been times where there have also been attacks perpetrated and executed on both sides. The Purim holiday, which is taking place in Israel from Wednesday, is the time that there have been attacks in recent years. There was a stabbing 2 years ago in the city, West Bank city of Hebron, where afterwards a very famous story of it, the Hebron shooter, Elor Azaria, opened fire on one of the attackers of this attempted stabbing and shot him, and it became quite a famous story of Israeli activity in that area. But the point is that these holidays oftentimes see tension, so the Israeli security forces will be bracing for potential backlash. Oftentimes when you have clashes like gun battles within the West Bank, it certainly makes the situation even more volatile. So this operation is likely to still be ongoing, and definitely the Israeli security apparatus is going to be paying a very close eye on what's happening there in the West Bank.
And Daniel, as you mentioned, there have been attacks around this time of year during this holiday of Purim here in Israel. So tell us, what kind of measures is the Israeli Defence Forces taking to try and ensure the safety of partygoers, let's say, especially here in Tel Aviv, where thousands, tens of thousands of people will be taking to the streets?
Yeah, so well, the main thing really that the Israeli Defense Forces will be doing is closing those crossings that I mentioned. That's a pretty wide overriding measure that they take to close those crossings, to not allow any potential perpetrators of any terror attacks or anything of the sort come into Israeli territory. They'll be manning the crossings very diligently, and obviously not allowing anyone into Israel that doesn't have a humanitarian reason to enter the country. As I said, it's not only in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, it's also on the Gaza Strip, on those Gaza border crossings. And this happens, as I said, it does happen on most holidays here in Israel, whether it be the holiday that's this week, which is Purim holiday, or others. And within Israel, it's also very likely the Israeli police will be playing a key role in ensuring that people who are out in the streets and celebrating this holiday will be safe. That's an Israeli police sort of jurisdiction, but in regards to keeping things in the West Bank quiet, that's an effort that's done also by other Israeli security forces, the Internal Security Agency, special forces of the Israeli Border Police, and those are also the forces that are operating as we speak right now in that village near Ramallah to deal with this, what is believed to be the end of a manhunt. It's an effort that is not only through the Israeli military, but special forces of the Israeli police and border police as well.
Okay, defence correspondent Daniel Semak there talking about a gunfight which has just broken out in the West Bank between Ramallah and Nablus, between the Israeli Defence Forces and an unknown gunman. And we are hearing unconfirmed reports coming in that gunman has been shot. And we will, of course, bring you more information on this developing story as it becomes available. Daniel Semak, thank you for that. Moving now to Gaza, where the Israeli Defence Forces has fired at two groups of Palestinians launching incendiary balloons from the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory, releasing a statement a short while ago saying its aircraft shot at two separate groups launching balloons from the northern and southern parts of the Strip. Now, at this stage, it's unclear if there have been any casualties, but we will, of course, bring you more information on this story also as it becomes available. Let's move now to one of the corruption cases involving Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and a state's witness in the case known as 3000, Miki Ganor, is asking police to change his version of events. Now, this case involves the sale of submarines from German manufacturer ThyssenKrupp to Israel, with Ganor, the man who served as the manufacturer's representative here in Israel. Now, he's been giving testimony for months, and police are investigating why he wants to change his story. This as the leader of the newly formed Blue and White Party, former IDF chief Benny Gantz, says that he won't invite the Arab parties or the right-wing party Zehut into his coalition if his party wins the election on April 9. This as Gantz is also telling Israel's Channel 12 that he's willing to hold any debate with Prime Minister Netanyahu at any place.
The situation regarding Netanyahu has gotten worse, and there's only one thing that can save Netanyahu from this, and that is if the hearing will stop the indictment from being submitted. I doubt this will happen. In my estimation, the indictment will be submitted. Regrettably, this will happen. Therefore, I will not sit with Netanyahu.
Staying in Israel, and according to a new elections poll released by the Walla News website, the newly formed Blue and White Party has lost momentum, falling below 30 seats with the elections less than 3 weeks away. Now, it shows that if the vote was held today, Blue and White would win just 29 seats, while the ruling Likud Party would take 32. The poll also indicating that the party headed by former Defence Minister Avigdor Lieberman, known as Yisrael Beitenu, would finish with 5 seats, while the Arab Party would fail to clear the electoral threshold. Hungary has opened a trade office in Jerusalem with diplomatic status. The decision was announced during Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's visit to Israel late last month. He said at the time he hopes it'll be a good step forward in further improving the relationship between Hungary and Israel. The decision stopped short of a Hungarian embassy move to Jerusalem, but the trade office opening has nonetheless been praised by Prime Minister Netanyahu.
A big move for Israeli diplomacy. Hungary opened its first diplomatic mission in Jerusalem today, right here in the middle of Jerusalem at the city tower. Hungary's foreign minister came to help dedicate this and spoke alongside Israel's prime minister to dedicate this new development in relations between the two countries.
And I want to extend special thanks for two things that the government of Hungary is doing. One, the battle against the falsehoods and slanders leveled at Israel in international forums. You've been superb, and I want to congratulate and salute you for it. The second is your stance against anti-Semitism, which has been robust and important and consistent.
We reject to combine restrictive economic and commercial measures with political issues. We will not apply the decision of the European Commission on labeling.
Both nations have remarked that economic cooperation between them is a very big deal for both nations, totaling more than $500 million in trade every single year. Hungary, for its part, says that the climate for business in Israel is stupendous for their own businesses, citing very low corporate tax rates. For Israel, this means improved diplomatic support and possibly even votes at the United Nations. However, this could be a controversial issue for many people. While the Hungarian government did stop short of issuing any statement on the status of Jerusalem, Israel did endorse this move as a victory of sorts. Both Israel and the Palestinian territories claim it as the capital of their own states, something that most nations have refused to make a statement on. Hungary opening an official diplomatic mission here could be seen by many as officially endorsing the Israeli position. And what comes next, beyond simply the blooming of trade and relations, could be many diplomatic pressures. Ariel Levin-Waldman, I-24 News.
Moving now to Holland, and authorities say they're seriously looking into a terrorist motive behind yesterday's tram shooting in Utrecht after a letter was found penned by the main suspect, 37-year-old Turkish-born Gökmen Tanis. Now, that attack has left 3 people dead and 7 others injured, with police saying that so far they have found no link between Tanis and the victims, despite earlier reports saying otherwise. Police prosecutors releasing a statement saying, so far, a terrorist motive seriously being taken into account. This is based on a letter found in the getaway car, among other things, and the nature of the facts. Tanis was arrested following a 7-hour manhunt. Now, as this wave of terror attacks rocks the world, the brother of the terrorist who murdered 3 children and an adult at a Jewish school and 3 others also in Toulouse in a number of attacks back in March 2012 has spoken out to our French language channel. Here's what he has to say.
This tragedy will haunt me until the day I die. I will always remember the 7 victims and the people injured. I want to remind the French people that the last time children were killed because they were Jewish was during the Nazi period, and this evil is back in France. Today in France, especially in the working class areas, Mohamed Merah is considered a hero. He opened the way for Jew hatred and made it a highway.
The president of Kazakhstan announced his shock resignation just a couple of hours ago, 29 years after being sworn into office. 78-year-old Nursultan Nazarbayev announcing he's stepping down in a special broadcast on state television, saying the mandate of the presidency will pass to the chairman of the Senate for the remainder of the presidential term, which expires in March next year. The move comes on the back of growing discontent in Kazakhstan, with the economy there still recovering from a huge plunge in oil prices back in 2014, along with the impact of Western sanctions on Russia, which is a vital trading partner of the country. More than 1,000 people are feared dead in Mozambique after tropical cyclone Idai tore through the region over the weekend. So far, the official death toll stands at over 200 people, but time is running out for those who are trapped, with rescuers unable to reach victims, with strong wind and heavy rain hampering their extraction. According to the United Nations, 1.7 million people were in the path of the storm in Mozambique, with a further 920,000 others affected in Malawi. Emergency teams are now using boats to try and get people out of trees, power lines and off roofs, with the South African military also involved as the impoverished country suffers perhaps the worst weather-related natural disaster ever to hit the Southern Hemisphere.
A lot is needed. I don't think that the world realizes yet the scale of the problem, especially in Mozambique. We have a bit less information about Zimbabwe and Malawi. In Malawi, some of the people displaced start to go back home, to rebuild their home. Then the situation looks a bit better there. But for Mozambique, it's definitely an important crisis. Additional funding is necessary for the whole UN family and obviously for the World Food Programme.
And we'll go back now to our breaking news, and reports are coming in of a gunfight which has broken out in the West Bank between Ramallah and Nablus, between the Israeli Defense Forces and an unknown gunman. And we are seeing these initial images coming in right now. As we must repeat, these are just initial reports that the gunman has in fact been neutralised. So far his identity hasn't been released, and it is still unclear as to what actually happened, but there are reports coming in that he may be the person linked to that terror attack outside of the Ariel Junction settlement in the West Bank there on Sunday. And that is all we have time for this edition of I24 News. But of course, we will continue to bring you all the new information on this gunfight in between Ramallah and Nablus, and also these IDF strikes in Gaza after two groups of Palestinians launched incendiary balloons from the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory, with the Israeli Defense Forces then striking a number of targets in the Strip, along with all of our other breaking news stories throughout the day. And we will also have all of those stories on all of our social media platforms, so make sure you go online to visit us at i24news.tv. I'm Sarah Coates. Thanks for watching.